The easiest thing to do with this movie is play more with the is he or is he not this guy, and that the overriding kind of surfacey tension of the movie, but the character stuff, the meat of the movie is really what's going on with Tom and what's going on with Edie as they struggle through their relationship.
I like this idea of, and tell me what you think about this at the end when I go over there, I'm just having those thoughts now. Oh my God, my whole life is a sham.
Yeah.
You know, David's scripts are really lean because he is interested in the actors filling things out.
In a sense, they are the custodians of their own characters. They protect those characters. They want to make them integrated and whole. And you as a director really should listen to that. You really should not move them around like pawns on a chessboard. You should allow them to be alive and to collaborate with you.
And you know, from this point on, I feel like I can, you know, barely stand up, basically, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so here, more, you know, here, but not just... I think I don't have it together, and that's why I go there, right?
Let me be honest, when I first read the script, I thought, supportive wife. And then I read it again, and I started to find some things in her that she was more of the man in this family than Tom was. Then when it changes, she kind of is forced back into this feminine, receptive, vulnerable place. And as soon as I found that shift, I started to look at it differently.
This killer that Fogarty warned me about.
I walk in and it's the first time I confront him. And when I actually hear the words that he's not this person, it's like a physical thing takes over my being and I just run to the bathroom and puke.
Maria had a really nice idea of going into the bathroom just for a second and then coming back out. And we don't need much, obviously.
How much time do you have? Because that's
But enough.
Yeah. Peter's so slow that you got hours.
That was a bit of a surprise because it was not in the script. We had an extra door on the set, but which was mainly for crew access, so that they wouldn't be stuck with one door to get into a set. So all of a sudden, she's running out the door, and unfortunately, it's the sound man or something.
He's not really slow, but he can tell you how long it'll take.
We were running around frantically looking for extra flats, and luckily we had a couple of extra sinks and toilets, which we were able to get into the set on time. But it was instant set. And with David, you don't just build a corner of the set, you like to give him the whole thing, because you don't know what's going to happen.
It's very interesting in a scene like that not to play into the other actor's energy, not to make it about Tom, but to keep in your own character's energy, because it's really traumatic.
What are you? Some kind of multiple personality schizoid.
There's an anger there, but it's not just an anger with the person who in some way has deceived you or disappointed you. You're also angry at yourself for falling for it.
Jack's name? Sarah's name? Stahl? Tom Stahl? Did you just make that up?
And let's clear the lights for now, guys, until we find the shot.
We very rarely talk about visualization because we both like to discover that as we get close to the movie and see the different elements that go in front of the camera.
27.
You might even manage it without taking the wall out.
If I'd come up with a formula, say, oh, let's put the camera off level, it would no longer have an effect after a couple of minutes.
Oh, you know what? This is different. It holds very, very nicely.
Yes.
So I think we rely on what's going on under the surface of the story to give that off-kilter feeling rather than an obvious formula in the imagery.
Okay. We shot most of this movie on a 27mm lens, which is quite wide, and is not a normal lens that you would use for close-ups, but I think over 90% of the film was shot with this lens, and it's just trying to find a coherent, cohesive visual equivalent to the psychology of the characters and the dynamics of the rooms and how people occupy their spaces and so on.
One way to do this, I suppose, would have been to look at everything that's Tom as Tom, and then everything that's Joey is Joey. But what I think is more interesting is to blend them, and then you sort of waver back and forth, especially in stressful moments or as things start to break down. It's just to see some bleed through.
I spent the next few years becoming Tom Stahl. Edie, you gotta know this. I was not really born until I met you.
It is not a lie that I did fall in love with Edie, that I still love her, that we had kids that I love. that we name together. None of that is a lie. I now believe that completely.
I needed him to be convincing as both halves of a role that requires almost a schizophrenia, that you can be several different people that appear at different times. We create an identity. In other words, it's not something that's there completely genetically. There's a lot of will and intelligence and creativity that goes into creating an identity for ourselves.
I can't believe this is happening.
There's a lot of love between Tom and Edie, especially in the beginning, sort of happy, healthy, wholesome stuff. And people are like, well, has David done that kind of thing? And I go, well, you know, look at The Fly, and you look at the fact that he can, you know, put Gina Davis in a room with that giant rubber fly and make you feel that profound emotion that you don't get a lot of times when it's two actors in a room. You know, this is a guy who can handle just two married people being in love with each other.
It's not like every day they're making out, but they make an effort. You know, they make an effort. So I end up picking him up from work that night and taking him on a special date.
Two of the things that I added to the script that were not there when I first read it are two sex scenes. I thought that Josh was being a little bit, well, he's not prudish, but he was being a little too delicate. And I thought that the sex lives of your characters are important.
Okay, well,
And to shy away from it can limit the depth of exploration of their characters.
yeah.
This is what I really do it for.
I need some direction.
I am a real director. I mean, this is none of that bullshit American stuff. I get right in there with my actors, and I take the same risks.
He's an auteur.
I take the risks that everyone, you know, dreams about. So the cheerleader sex scene, Josh did right with my urging. And then the parallel, the sort of contrasting, actually, Edie having sex with Tom and Edie having sex with Joey, what we call the gangster sex scene. I thought it was important that we see her responding to both of those, and certainly in the second one, realizing that there's another depth to her own sexuality, which she found disturbing, but also attractive.
We had never experienced each other's dark side, even sexually. We never explored that, an animal thing in both of us. So seeing his kind of animal brings out mine.
Yeah.
You want that really big in his face.
It turns into something both of us don't expect.
Fuck you, Joey!
And again, you know, is based in pure love. So there's some sort of trust there.
It's not gonna break, is it?
No, it won't break. It might wobble a bit, but it won't break.
Robert's fine.
You have this violent sex scene on the stairway, on the bare wooden stairs. I mean, you're obviously looking at the same two people. David allows us to see in ourselves a duality, seemingly totally contradicting sides of ourselves.
Action!
Wait off!
Wait! Fuck you, Joey!
You don't have to act out violently, but to know that that's within you and within us all is, I think, healthy.
So it was really intense actually doing the scene that day. We were incredibly nervous, but I think we found a real arc to it and a real understanding of it. I hope that plays.
Do we continue and try to work some stuff out there?
Yeah, we should try to see if we can learn the whole thing.
And figure how we...
Figure out exactly what we're going to do and how long it's going to take.
Should we just do that on camera and just figure out where we go until we come and then I leave?
I think pretty much. I mean, the way the script is written, it works really nice, and it's just a question of the old movie thing where, you know, multiple orgasms in 14 seconds because you don't want to wait for the 4 hours.
So you're going to be pretending to do your pant, or how's that going to work? Or you're going to figure it out as we go along?
Fumble, I don't know either, but I mean, I don't mind if it's... Sexuality on the set is special. You can't just say it's like dialogue. It's not. Actors are much more vulnerable. Their own approach to sexuality is suddenly summoned up. And then that's very personal and private, and it becomes kind of open season you have a crew standing around. That's where an actor needs to feel that he or she is protected by the director. They have to trust you, not only on the set, but in the editing process, that you understand what they're giving you and that you will not misuse that.
Yes. Do you prefer when Maria does that?
Do this
or
here?
Or that?
Here.
Yeah. Yeah. Boom. Yeah, good. Let's do final touches.
Ô noble tweet.
Sois forte, sois vite.
Nage bravement.
Va vers ton inévitable destin.
Celui d'être dévoré.
Par une grosse tabarnak.
C'est ça.
Montre-moi donc ton visage.
Rhonda, second team.
Et puis, là derrière.
Non, ça se voit pas.
Ça se voit pas? Parce que la caméra était juste là.
Je sais pas. Do we see... Hey, David? Are you just seeing this up in this shot?
Okay.
More flush.
When I did the film Crash, which was very dark and extremely sexual, more so than History of Violence, the monitor was available to any actor at any time. As simple as seeing what you look like naked from that angle, that's one of the moments of trust is, well, you know, tell me if you really think you don't look good and you don't want to look that way, then let me know, you know, because I'm showing it to you right now. You will know what material I'm taking back to the editing room to work with. At your moment of realization that, hey, I shouldn't be doing this, you really pulled away from her.
Okay.
Quite far, and that gave her a chance to grab
pull
you
herself
and pull
up
you
to me.
really back.
Yeah.
If you stay close to her, there just can't be that big movement.
So I need to be like...
Yeah,
yeah. Down and then she's...
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Ready, guys? Yes. Good. All right, folks, let's do it. Stand by, let's lock it up. Be quiet over
Yeah.
I just want to have a good thing to say. All right, you guys want to take your positions? Here we go.
You know, it's not about him taking me against my will. At one point, we're fighting, and he looks at me, and he's like he realizes what he's doing. And I grab his head, and I'm basically saying, like, no. I don't say it, but I'm like, you started this, go. Now I want, you know, okay, let me have that. And I like it. I like fucking Joey. And that's where she begins to unravel and realize there's a whole other aspect of herself she's never explored.
Oh, I felt that one.
I felt it too.
The wounded, you're the walking wounded. Vigo did everything possible to make sure that when they were doing their first scenes together, they were already a bit of a couple. I don't mean literally off screen, but they had spent time together. They were getting to be friends.
From the first minute I met Vigo, just felt like we were brother and sister, like we'd known each other forever.
The more comfortable you are with each other in a personal way, the more your characters can bring things out of each other in a dramatic way. It's quite an interesting process.
Very good.
Marker.
In Josh's original script, Richie was not Joey's brother. He was a friend. And I said, no, I really think Richie should be Joey's brother. I think there's a whole other layer of illusion and metaphor and psychological intensity by having them be brothers.
Richie is presented very strong. I've never done any character anywhere near close to that. Certainly not to in a film with a large audience.
William said to me he thinks he has a few afterburners he's never fired up before. And I said, well, I'm going to ask you to fire them up for this role.
How do you fuck that up?
It changes with me how you enter into a different character physically. My preference is to transform physically entirely.
Because then you have the Mephistophelian affectation. Yes. Because he's all affect. Yes. It's all. He's just better.
It's a relatively small role in terms of screen time. And in fact, William was really only on the set for 5 days to play this role. But it's absolutely a critical role. It has to be compelling, it has to be convincing, it has to be charismatic, it has to be scary. And I just knew that he would do wonderful things with the dialogue.
Can you believe that place is still standing? The track and turf. You banged Joe Levy there? Richie started for me with the accent. And I worked on this accent with a guy named John Nellis.
William Hurt is very, very detailed, and he's one of the few actors who knows the International Phonetic Alphabet that I can say, this is a schwa sound here, or you're substituting this sound with that sound, and he knows what I'm talking about, and he marks his script that way, and we work through it that way.
And it's very difficult to get it because about, you know, it's not it's not New York. New York is like that, but in Philadelphia, you really do pronounce your R's.
He would like to go way over and then pull it back and come back so that those sounds are really comfortable.
I'm so mad at you. Why didn't you write to me? You know, we're brothers. What'd you think was going to happen?
It was after that.
Business.
Yeah. So that's
just that.
Yeah. But we'll just do this, and we're going to do two sizes. So.
And how do you want to work it on that last line? Because I made it. It's wonderful how sound changes you. Because if you can relax, which in a very professional atmosphere you can do, you can let your body be informed by the sound. So your body changes its tilt and its lilt, and he may get a little more body English into it.
Viggo's accent changes as his character changes, and those are things that we took a lot of time with and spent a lot of energy on.
I told Maria, I said, I was down in Philadelphia, you're from there? And she goes, yeah. She goes, you were there? You should have called my Uncle Pete. I'm like, well, yeah, if I knew your Uncle Pete. She goes, no, but if you go back. I said, well, I'm thinking of trying to squeeze in one more quick visit.
So I call my brother from Philly and my uncle who owns a funeral parlor in South Philadelphia.
Hello. Yes, Marie, this is your Uncle Pete. I don't know, I'm in a car here with the Lord of the King's King.
And he has 8 hours of tapes of my brother and my uncle and him driving around Philadelphia. Hilarious.
He ended up hearing members of Maria's family acting out scenes in the movie for him.
Can you believe that place is still standing, the track and turf?
That's where I want to meet the guy.
Don't you bang Jill Levy there, right on the bar in front of everybody. I never banged Jill Levy.
Didn't you? Didn't you bang?
Yeah, didn't you bang Jill Levy there, right on the bar in front of everybody? I never banged Jill Levy. You should have. She was something. Been a long, long time, bro. Yeah.
Uncle Pete never went for the Brohim thing. I gotta say that right now.
It's been a long, long time, Brohim.
He says that's a soup bone thing. Soup bone being the Irish.
I'm going to cast my ballot for the USA election.
I voted absentee. I already sent it in. But I should vote here as well, shouldn't I?
Okay. Voting station.
This is Marcus Streeper. He's here from... Streeper. I'm sorry, sir. He's here from... Austria, and he's here to monitor on behalf of the UN.
It's a terrorist beware UN bomb-sniffing dog, Rosie. Is that Rosie?
Rosie.
That's pretty scary. Okay. I'm doing that.
Now you enter from the right-hand side, Canadian side, please.
That's the Canadian side. I did my duty and I voted as a Canadian. I voted in the American election.
Now we'll tabulate them at the end of the day.
Because I was going to do this movie, and I knew instinctively, and it's only been confirmed more and more each day, that this had something really serious to do with U.S. culture, U.S. society. That sort of expansionist, aggressive, willing yourself to do things, which can be both admirable, but also can be really pig-headed and destructive. But in even Tom, there's obviously something really destructive to what he's doing, to this lie, what it's doing to his family. But on the other hand, there's something really positive. And he's doing something that's very difficult to do. And that is, in spite of his experience with extreme violence as a young man, he is willing himself to not be violent. William was sort of testing me and interested in the fact that since 20 years had passed, there's a maturity to Joey, so that the first couple of questions...
Didn't you bang Joe Levy there, right on the bar in front of everybody?
He knows I never did that. And he knows I know he did that probably.
Viggo immediately took time off from a tremendously busy schedule, and we started working right away. Right off the bat, I launched into the Cain-Abel parallel, the brother versus brother issue. And one of the first notions I had was that Richie longs for his brother to be his brother again.
Cut. Very gorgeous. That's brothers.
It's so interesting the lengths that Joey goes to create another life.
Want anything?
Richie can't comprehend it any more than some people's parents can understand their children's choices.
To him it's a joke, but it's not a joke to me. And it's only very reluctantly that Joey is drawn back into behaving violently again.
The story obviously reverses the Cain-Abel fable, since now it ends up that Richie pays the price. And Joey, being the younger brother,
Jesus, Joey,
manages to escape.
The day we shot this with William on the set, Stefan put a actual bullet hole in his head with prosthetic. What we did was got behind him with the air rigs filled with blood, and the actor just had to lean back against this thing.
Jesus, Joey.
And cued by a dialogue, we hit the button which opened the solenoids and blew the back of his head off.
William, if you have to blink, just blink.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Head up, sir.
You watch David review the tape in the monitor, and it's uncanny.
Action! Blood!
Because his concentration is absolute. He's looking at that thing, and he's not affected by anyone or anything that's happening on that set. Not anything.
Cut! The thing that actors really want is to know that they are being observed. They need to know that you, as a director, are watching them.
A long time ago, I got over myself enough as an actor that I know it's not going to be perfect, and let me just see what I can improve on. You know, whether it's to watch dailies or on the spot. You can improve something by seeing the previous take on a monitor.
You know what I could do is after kicking...
And be low.
Well, it's nice.
Yeah, it would be good if you could.
Well, I could be turned
contrive
this way.
to, yeah, twist.
I think the fact that I've been involved in stunt work and movies over the years was probably helpful to David. He had in Stoney a very good stunt coordinator, someone who's very easy to work
It's
with.
not really a good angle for the fall.
No, you're probably going to want to go to the
Yeah, so.
But I think the fact that I understood what the coordinator was talking about, because I'd experienced some of it before, made David's job a little easier because he could just sort of watch and react. He didn't have to find a way to invent all of it.
Yeah, that means sound effects were good.
It's not that I enjoy the violence, but I enjoy it as a craft making it look right, just like any other scene. To me, a scene where there's fighting is no different than a scene where there's sex, or where there's talking, or where there's cooking. I mean, it's a way of making it look as real as possible. And he doesn't use the same old angles that you've always seen in action sequences. He uses David Cronenberg angles. That made it challenging for us, though, and for the stunt coordinator, because there's a reason why you see the same kinds of angles in fights in movies over and over, because those are easier to do. You know, you can safely look like you're punching someone or doing damage to somebody without really coming even close to them. But the angles that David wanted to shoot a lot of times made it very hard to make the fight or the blow or whatever look real unless you were really close to the person's face or whatever. So it made it a little harder.
So don't kick so quickly?
Yeah.
It's kind of nice of the timing, though. I know what you mean. Do
Yeah,
one.
no,
with
yeah. I like this.
Well, it gives him a chance to beat. He's trying to keep the garrote on me, too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do one just a fraction longer. Is that what you mean? Right?
Yeah, before the kick. Yeah,
Good.
That's
Nice
starting to
sell.
work. Yeah. Just print that.
Good,
way.
Ian.
Yeah. Very good. He'll get a Stuntman's Association belt buckle out of this.
Nice.
Yeah, Richie would not have a Ruger. It's just not class enough, but you would have a titanium-coated Walther. I could really see Richie going for that, because you're right, it is a much sexier pistol, so that suits Richie. We'll have that in his drawer.
Very good. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And that was that?
That was gonna be that, yeah.
Would have been funny.
That's me.
I'm hot.
Action!
We did a shot where William Hurt shoot one of his henchmen that's laying on the ground.
How do you fuck that up?
And then you shoot him.
And that was a tricky shot. Now, you couldn't use a blank because the man was too close, and we didn't want to use the electronic gun. If you have a tight shot of it, it doesn't look quite the same as the real gun. So we had to use the real gun.
The squib is coming this way.
Yes, I will.
So yeah, you can wear a shield.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Effect, guys. Put a little effect there, and this pops up as he fires the gun.
How do you fuck that up?
We use a semi-automatic pistol, and we use a special primer that looks like bullets going out of the gun. And that's what happened. We shot him in the chest, and the effect was perfect.
The results are in. The winner with 75 votes, John Kerry. A mere 6 votes went to George W. Bush. Rosie, the UN bomb-sniffing dog, got 2. In a surprise, Jill Levy got a vote. And another big surprise, I don't know if it's going to go over well, Guy Lafleur got a vote.
Recount!
Ironically enough, the scenes in this movie that perhaps will remind people of my other movies is a sort of a dream sequence in which the Ed Harris character is blown away by a shotgun. And that was in there when I first read the script, and it was not something that made me say, oh yes, I must do this movie at all. In fact, I might have even thought maybe that shouldn't be in there. Or will it seem like an aside or a reference to my other movies?
I don't say anything, right?
No, you just laugh at him and you pointed at him.
So he shoots at me even though his guts are all
Listen, if I hadn't already done this, I would have him take the gun out of his guts. Well, I've sort of done that. And it would be unfortunately...
Been there, done that.
It would be an homage to myself, which I'm not above doing. But I think not.
The challenging part about playing somebody like this guy is try to find something for yourself that makes it kind of interesting, where you just try and invest it with some specificity.
With sunglasses. Without sunglasses. Interesting. With sunglasses.
I think with sunglasses. Really? Okay, let's say...
They can fly off.
Many of David's films have these dream sequences, these surreal kind of moments. In this film, I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. And when I saw the first cut of the film, it wasn't even in there. David had already cut it.
Cut!
And I was impressed, actually, because I thought that that would be something maybe as a director he'd be attached to. But David focuses on what works for story and for character first and foremost. A lot of times, the things that you end up cutting are the things that are the biggest headaches. Sets have been built, people have stayed up all night to prepare for this big scene.
I don't need the jacket to get blown.
Okay, so
but
it'll be open.
But he does have to be wearing the jacket.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so that way we could put some in the tie and blow the shirt around this part too, so
Yes.
it's all blood and everything.
3, 2, 1.
Every effect, even though it looks simple, really has little glitches to it that you got to make sure work because you're in front of the camera. You don't get many chances after that. On this film, Ed flew right off the seat, and the stunt guys had rigged him up to do so. So the timing was tied together.
What do you like better, David? Turn out of the corner of the frame?
Right at that buckle.
We also took the gun and we made it look like it was actually shooting real shells, but it wasn't. We had a little tiny pyrotechnic that we inserted inside the barrels. So he actually fired that gun about 2.5 feet away from Ed Harris.
Let's bait.
Let's wait.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Steve.
Action! 3, 2, 1, go!
You okay, Ed? That looks fantastic.
We got again, guys? What's going on?
I don't think we need to go again.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think we need to go again. It looked great.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity.
It was a really great shot. I was very proud of that. We did that in one take.
All right, start up the wood chipping.
That's a good thing, because we know that if it's one take, we did it really well.
You know, he goes, Ed Harris just goes flying back. He's lying on the ground, and as Tom Stahl walks toward him, Ed Harris, who's lying there with a huge hole, as if a cannonball went through his chest, and it's still steaming. So what we did was build like a set, build it up like 1 foot, and have the middle part of your body just kind of like sunk in, as to make it look as if you were lying on the floor and you were flat. So it gave me enough leeway to make a hole in the chest cavity. And the actor could use his own feet and his own arms, and it worked out great.
You need a few minutes?
It didn't have to be glued on. It was attached to a leotard with pins. So it was kind of like a big costume piece. It was made out of like foam latex with plastic bones. And then we put the clothes back around it that were like 3 times or 4 times the size of Ed Harris, because it had to wrap around his own fake body, so to speak. And then we ripped open the chest and we put like all the fake blood and stuff. Neil Trifanovich, who's the effects supervisor on the show, pumped in some smoke so it looked like nice smoking ribs.
So we can place it wherever we want to. It'll come underneath the floor and come up into his chest area. And these have a little bit of a wooden pick through the middle that burn and keep the thing ignited the whole time. And they're very noticeable on camera. Smoke pellets.
I don't get off on that stuff like David does and stuff, you know, the guts and the gore and the prosthetics. But I enjoy his enjoyment of it.
You know, I mean, gargling and shit, right?
Sorry?
I'm not like...
Oh, no.
Yeah, just
No,
like
you're
lying.
happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're loving it.
But it's David's own anti-violence statement, I think, as well, in some bizarre way.
Stainless Beretta, 2-tone Beretta, all black Beretta, or the Sig Sauer.
Probably this one, you know?
Probably the Sig Sauer?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, it was a complicated day of shooting that required a lot of planning. But the positive is, when you shoot those scenes, you're exploring different aspects of the film, and that ultimately will better the movie, even if it's not in the film.
I've actually said to them that I don't really think it should be in the Cannes Film Festival because it's much too commercial. In fact, I'm hoping that it's much too commercial for Cannes. Tomorrow night, I'll be walking up the steps with my cast and the producers of History of Violence, the famous red steps to the Palais des Festivals in Cannes, where we'll all be shaking. We'll be terrified. There'll be a wall of photographers, each one standing on a number. You can have an epileptic fit from all the flashes that hit you. And it's about 10 to 3 in the morning, and I'm here to look at the print that's going to be shown tomorrow night, to check the brightness of the screen, the sharpness of the projection, and the quality of the sound, the level of the sound. They're very precise about that here. It's really wonderful. We'll go into the projection booth and talk to the projectionist who will actually be projecting the film tomorrow night. You can see it's a big place with a lot of seats. The seats are famous for clacking loudly when people walk out of your movie in anger, which has happened to me, particularly with Crash. And sometimes it encourages the rest of the team to. So it can be pretty brutal.
Ah, il a pris tes fesses en photo.
What do you think, Caroline? You know, this is the law of the festival. It's an exceptional authorization. But for Mr. Cronenberg, exceptionally. Anybody, don't tell anybody.
It's the first time.
Yeah, it's the first time. Yeah, it's a premiere.
This is my photojournalist look, because I'm going to shoot a little photo diary of me and Ken for French Premiere magazine. So it's the first time I've been doing this. It's going to distract me from focusing too much on the competition and on the journalists and the reviews. Give me a little weird objectivity. Because why the hell not?
I could have slept an extra 2 hours.
So you finally got an honest job?
Hey. Hello. Wait a minute.
Did you guys meet cool people?
I met some very cool people. My favorite director in the world. Before I met him, I wrote the script that apparently intrigued this gentleman enough that he came in and fixed it.
And here you are.
Filmed it, and here I am.
Kind of excited for the whole red cover walk. I went this morning at like 6 a.m.
Good.
I took a walk there.
Did you?
Yeah, and the security guard let me there in my jeans and sneakers.
You know, you're no stranger to Cannes. It's such a big festival. What's it like for you?
Kind of a circus that I wouldn't go to unless I had a good reason. But David Cronenberg, I would follow to the ends of the earth, even to Cannes.
It's a middle America. But I think there's a tension, there's an undertone of taste that you can feel that something's not quite right. But you also suggest, is it available because he killed somebody and took his identity? You know, there are many ways that it is kind of funny. If you believe in evolution, which not everybody in America does anymore, you can see that we struggle to deal with our history of violence because we are perhaps the only animals in the universe who can imagine an ideal that doesn't exist. You have to have a very strange...
Without a doubt, it was the final scene in the movie. And it's one of the last scenes we shot.
This is like, I'm so cool.
How many interviews did you just do?
I think it was about 40 interviews, print and television, one after the other after the other. And I still seem to think I know what I'm saying, so that's...
Question over there, then question over here.
A question for Mr. Cronenberg. What is this dark, violent, sexual complex, and how is that related to your idea of violence in general?
Sex and violence have always gone very well together. It's like bacon and eggs. And if you look at the history of cinematic violence, you'll see that there's a long one.
During the press meeting, all the violent scenes, the audience was clapping and feeling really good.
I'm not surprised that the audience would applaud the violence because I wanted them to be complicit in it. I wanted them to be involved in it because I guess you have to ask them after the movie's over how they feel about their complicity in those violent acts. Because if it's done in such a way that the audience is repulsed and held outside the movie, then I've actually lost the opportunity to deliver to them the paradox of enjoying something that morally you find reprehensible. I was tempted to try and get my old double-breasted tux redone, but I ended up buying a new one. We're really the first serious big screening of this movie, and it's a pretty public place to find out that your movie doesn't work, if it doesn't.
Et voici donc l'équipe de A History of Violence. Son réalisateur, Monsieur David Cronenberg. Son actrice, Maria Bello. Également avec nous, Monsieur William Hurt sur les marches. Et puis, vous avez peut-être découvert ses grandes et belles moustaches. Viggo Mortensen est avec nous.
Grazie.